Hey there, friends. This channel is called, well, it's not called anything. It's my channel, Kirby's channel, but we do a lot of different threads. For example, I jump onto Facebook sometimes. I'm talking about public versus charter schools. Why do we have to have a difference? Why can't you create new public schools that aren't charter schools? They're just regular public schools like other schools. This whole mechanism people put into place to create these charter schools, okay, it's not the only way in the world to solve issues, right? It's not the only possible machinery. We live in a world of artificially narrow constraints. Speaking of which, oh, by the way, politically also, I'm continuing to follow the whole Syria thing. You can watch my blogs and doing more with the various frameworks. You guys know that I'm wanting to not just work at the codesters level when it comes to Python and the JavaScript. I should acknowledge like where we are as like high schoolers, because I've always said that School of Tomorrow, which is one of the threads here, is kind of high school level, and this is what I mean by that, what we're looking at. And I'm thinking, you don't solve this by sending people on a bus to some vacuous building with lockers if they don't have serious computers, and even then takes concentration. I'm not sure what you're there for exactly. It's like if you're into this kind of thing, but continuous with this kind of thing is like just fun recreational math, like Martin Gardner stuff, like the puzzles. This prime number, by the way, which is too big to ever want to type into a calculator, and it's like you don't want to learn math sitting in a little desk with a calculator, okay? That's not what we would call learning math, right? You've got to have your Jupyter Labs, right? Or whatever you call it, right? And your animated GIFs and the files that you take care of and your file directory. You got to have all that, and a calculator is not going to do it, right? I'm not in the religion of pushing a particular language, but you've got across the top here. This is like the basics of our civilization at this point, right? A lot of older people, boomers and stuff, might not know this, but that's no excuse for you. It's an excuse for them, fine, but not for you. All right. Same with this concentric hierarchy stuff, and that's more good news. It's all good news today. My two websites are good. I'm getting the cleaning emails from GoDaddy where we're scrubbing out the WordPress infection. I know that sounds gross, and it is. And the 4D Solutions, they're migrating back in the back to a different serving company, a different hosting company, right? WebFaction, WebFactional, whatever. They're gonna all the accounts are being moved, but the domain name stuff will be handled for me. The DNS, I hope. Thing is, they don't own that domain, so I don't know how that works exactly. I guess it doesn't matter, right? They'll keep all their, I don't know, internet stuff, right? Okay, so the math forum is back, and I'd speculated it was probably gone forever. I don't know that the forums ever came back. This one has a link to my site. This is at the NCTM website, still here, Quadrays. High school, right? That's the level we're at, high school level. Quadrays, well, you can go to college with Quadrays. You can use Quadrays, and also the whole concentric hierarchy is what we're talking about here, as you well know, right? Let's move to grain of sands. I'll be winding up here shortly. Just mostly a good news report, but also orientation again. For those wondering, it's like think of me as pushing into Quaker schools various memes, right? Because they are reflective of Quaker values, Emersonian as well. Like there's a merger here in American heritage going on where American philosophy, which includes Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, okay, and here's a study group, I believe based in Philadelphia, where they've been going over Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth fairly intensely, like they're going to take a few weeks to do it. And that's a book, as I've got here in my blog, Chronophiles, that's made a lot of waves over the years. Here in Bismo Diaries, we see launch of Spaceship Earth, and we talk about some of the most influential books. Now, these things in my blog, if they show up with Flickr next to them, sometimes they won't show up at all because Flickr changed the API for doing slideshows, and I'm kind of like randomly fixing them. If you find a slideshow that you want to see that's not showing, you may send me an email or something. Maybe I can fix that. But as it is, I'm gradually migrating. But once you click on the picture and go to Flickr, you can get much bigger, right? A lot of these pictures. Now, not all of them. Some of them are as small as they look or whatever. But okay, so there we've got Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. What else do we have? The Meaning of the 20th Century, The Great Transition, The Limits to Growth, The Report for the Club of Rome. I remember when that came out because I was studying the Club of Rome through the Futurist magazine in 8th grade. See, so I have this idea about 8th grade and high school that might not match what you're thinking, right? Because I came from international schools and stuff like this. So they would all be focusing on learning these skills, right? These basics of, web frameworks and stuff like that. You got to have HTML, you got to have, and I would say the concentric hierarchy is, if you're in a Quaker school, right up there with like Emily Dickinson and stuff. That you got to get some appreciation of. Now, this prime number converts, back to my blog here just for a sec, to in binary. Okay, so you take that humongous prime number and you turn it into a binary number, and then you get the formatting right. So it's, I think, 150 by 50 is the matrix, and you get this cool Mercator thing coming out, right? So that's the binary version. Of course, I've also converted it to a picture because I didn't. It's actually somewhat difficult to get it to display on an actual notebook if you don't have enough room. I try to do there. I've got it. Is that a picture too? See, that's a picture too. I've embedded picture as output. But this is local, so I can run this. Again, if you haven't seen this, this is the standard. Oh, that takes me to the same place. Come back, Jupyter Notebook. You can edit these yourself. See, this is how you do your work. This is your homework, right, in your home studio. And the school helps you get your home studio together, right? The school is all about giving you advice on that. And how about, like, where you're going to afford it? Is school, school takes a lot of money out of my pocket anyway. I would allocate that to you getting a better studio. Everyone needs a studio to learn math. You can't learn it the way they're teaching it for the most part. So don't get confused, right? Hang in there. And okay, I was just going to show you with this. I've got all the standard kind of math topics for you if you're desperate, right, or not. But this is like a website at my GitHub, at my repo, that will give you a really strong introduction to a lot of math topics, but I don't avoid such as the concentric hierarchy, right? That's there. And if you're in kind of panic mode, like, oh my God, they're keeping this from me, I don't blame you. And I'm just saying, it's there in many forms, and all you need is some kind of studio, right? You can't really get this while you're hiking, but you can think about it, right? Once you've got it, then when you're hiking, you got things to think about that are interesting. I'm not saying don't go hiking, right? Like, it's not all, I'm saying math is an outdoor sport a lot of the time in the civilization we might want to steer towards. Subculture doesn't always be the whole world at once that has to do something, right? It's like, let's all do this, let's all do that. Don't use your lets to say let's all, right? Let's some. You can get your language to be a little more fine tuned on there. We overdo it with the let's all, I think. It's like, all right. I think that's good. All good news. Math form is back, but not with the discussions. But that's, we're having those discussions anyway. Let's put it that way. All right. Talk to you later.